In a previous video of mine, Re-Explain This Please, a response to Bionic Dance, I talked about belief being a binary system, having only two possible states, present or absent from the mind, which would mean belief is a dichotomy. In his response video, Response to John Henry Alex, YouTube user FractalMachine offers an argument that my proposition is actually a false dichotomy, and to demonstrate this, all he has to do is find one exception, a third state of belief. In this video, I respond to FractalMachine's argument by discussing how his proposed third state does not work to break the dichotomy. I would like to note that this video is not intended to be interpreted as ponage style, because I don't find ponage videos useful or conducive to conversations. Hello FractalMachine, this is John Henry Alex. Thank you for your video response to my video, Re-Explain This Please, a response to Bionic Dance. Although the main point of your response to me is about a possible third state to belief which would render my proposition a false dichotomy, I would like to first address something else you've mentioned.
This is a prediction of mine. People who are proponents of the binary system are most likely people who were never indoctrinated into religion and were rather grew up in a secular family, or people who weren't extremely religious.
I'm not altogether with you on your prediction that people raised primarily as skeptics or non-theists may tend to view belief as a binary or dichotomous system. Both Matt Dillahunty and myself came from theistic families. However, where Matt had underwent a deconversion process, I was never convinced any deities exist. I was raised in a Roman Catholic family by my paternal grandparents. My grandmother had most of the walls in our house lined with a variety of religious artifacts such as crucifixes and pictures of Jesus, Mary, some priests, and foot-long clusters of rather long, thick grass-like leaves she referred to as palms. My grandmother did drag us to church when I was a small child, but as my siblings and I got older, she put up less of a fight to get us to church, and she inevitably failed at indoctrinating me. I made a video about my failed indoctrination to the Roman Catholic religion called Why Am I Not a Theist? Matt Dillahunty has explained on the show The Atheist Experience that he was born into a Southern Baptist Christian fundamentalist family and was actually studying to become a minister. It was a result of his studies that he began to doubt and eventually became atheist. Although there are a few videos available on YouTube where he talks about his deconversion from Christianity, I didn't want to spend too much time going through all his videos to find a clip. So I'll provide a link in the description box to his bio as it is listed on the Atheist Experience website. Bionic Dance was not technically raised religious, which she explains in her video, Tag, Living as an Atheist. And now let's get on to the main point. In your response to me, you posit a third option or third state of belief, which you thought was a valid third response, and as such, would mean belief cannot be a true dichotomy.
But what about the statement, I don't know whether or not I believe in God? I'm not sure whether or not I believe in God. What do you think about that statement? Now, in order for your false dichotomy to be considered a binary system, you have to say that such a person can never exist. There cannot be a person who is not sure whether or not he believes in God.
I can't really agree with you here. I'm not convinced that the statement, I don't know whether or not I believe in God, or I'm not sure whether or not I believe in God, really is a valid third response. The problem I have with this third response is that it does not actually directly address the question being asked, which is, do you believe God exists, or do you believe in God? Instead, it seems to be an acknowledgement that one does not know the contents of their own mind well enough to offer a direct answer. At best, this response tells us that the belief in God might actually be present, but the person being asked is unaware that they hold such a belief. Rather than being a valid response to the question, do you believe God exists, it answers a question that was not asked. The question being, do you know if you believe whether or not God exists? So what would a proper response be to the question, do you believe in God, for someone who really does not know whether or not they hold a belief that God exists? The most proper answer they could give is, I can't answer your question because I don't know whether or not if I believe God exists. The response is, I don't know whether or not I believe in God, or I'm not sure whether or not I believe in God, are adequate only in regard to letting us know the individual is unable to answer the question. What about theists who are doubting and going through a deconversion process?
But it just so happens that people who have deconverted from religion have not done it all at once, all in one boom. Which is why I think that people who hold this position are likely not deconverted, but rather grew up as atheists, because they never had this phase, so they don't understand it. They've never went through the phase in which you are not sure what you believe. When you have evidence that God exists, you have all the values that you grew up on, and you have a strong conviction that God exists. But then on the other hand, you have doubt. And slowly, the strong conviction that God exists shifts towards doubt until doubt becomes skepticism. And skepticism leads you to become an atheist. So in this stage of when your conviction in God's existence slowly melts and turns into doubt, you are not sure whether or not you believe in God. So when somebody asks you, do you believe in God? Yes or no? The only answer you could answer is, I don't know. I don't know whether or not I believe in God.
I can agree with you that people who have deconverted from their theism have probably undergone a process that took some time, and they likely did not convert all at once. However, even while transitioning from theist to non-theist, the belief in God still exists. The convictions still remain, but are eroded by doubts. Only when enough doubts have gathered, the theist loses his or her belief in a deity. The belief changes from being present to absent. It may even change to belief that God does not exist, but even if it did, there would still be an absence of a belief in God. It's not unlike a piece of ice left out on the kitchen table. As the ice accumulates heat energy, it melts from a solid to a liquid, but it does not turn from solid to liquid all at once. As it goes through the transition of turning from solid to liquid, there's still solid, even though that solid is being eroded by heat energy. When enough heat energy has accumulated, the solid changes entirely to a liquid. This ends my response. I hope it was clear and didn't make things more confusing, and I look forward to your input, Fractal Machine, on what I had to say here. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to rate and comment, and maybe consider subscribing.